then perhaps it would be a good idea to implement a GTK-based front end that basically works similarly to GNOME Shell, but without the animation.
So GNOME 3 actually can work with the normal panel and...
Yes. If you build GNOME 3 and you run the panel and applets, it works just like it used to. The one complication is that the GNOME 2 panel uses Corba and Orbit, whereas the new GNOME infrastructure uses dbus for all of its applet interaction. So if GNOME panel is going to live on, I would imagine that at some point it might need to be converted to using the new technologies. But it's not really clear to me now whether that would be more or less work than writing a new GTK front end for GNOME Shell. So I think over time, as it becomes more clear who the stakeholders are and who really needs support, what decisions those organizations make to solve their desktop problem is probably going to drive which approach. And it's hard to predict, even at this point in time, even which players in the community really need non-OpenGL support.
So the GNOME 3 desktop acknowledges that screens are getting wider and wider instead of higher and higher by putting all the menu on the right side. GNOME 3 is not going to be available to users before something like about a year. In the meantime, will GNOME 2 actually acknowledge that people have widescreen now and that maybe two panel is a bit too much, one on the top, one on the bottom, or not?
Well, that is configurable if you're using.
Yeah, I know. I remove it, but by default, you're taking space.
How the desktop is configured is typically a decision that distros make.
Okay.
By default, I believe GNOME only has a single top panel.
Oh, really?
Am I wrong in saying that? Does anyone know? But I believe it only has a single top panel by default. But a lot of distros change that behavior, and if you wanted that to change, you'd have to talk about that with your distro.
With my distro, okay. Thank you.
还有什么问题想要问 Brian 的吗？
How about the file manager? Will there any changes for Nautilus? Will it include any searching tools or something like that?
I missed the question.
可以再重复一次吗？
Sorry. How about the file manager? You didn't mention the change of file managers.
That's a very good question because the Nautilus file manager is going through extensive work. The GNOME usability team has been focusing a lot of energy redesigning how Nautilus should work in GNOME Shell. We have a member of the GNOME usability team right over here. He's going to be talking later. He would probably be a better person to talk to answer that question. So maybe you could save it for his talk.
请说。
不好意思，用中文。想问一下，过去 GNOME 的出现是因为在当初QT 的授权方式为 GPL， 可能认为这个授权不是很好。那现在 QT 已经改为 LGPL， 那想请问说，在 GNOME 这边是否有打算说，尽量的合并两边的贡献这样子？谢谢。
His question is, GNOME project was put out because the QT is not open source, but now the QT library is open. If we even try to merge with KDE or something else.
The GNOME community and the KDE community are very cooperative, and we like working together. a lot of my best friends are KDE developers. The free desktop project is focused on creating technologies that are used by both desktops. Things like dbus, I explained earlier that accessibility is now using dbus. Things like GStreamer for handling multimedia, Cairo, not Pango, but Cairo, package config. Quite a number of modules that make up the desktop now are projects that the KDE and the GNOME community work on in a collaborative way. So we're very interested in working together and making sure that our desktops interoperate. That's why when you install applications, they install common desktop files so that your applications are visible in both the KDE and the GNOME environments. So we try to follow free desktop specifications. But one thing that you have to be aware of with the KDE or with the Qt license is that it's GPL. So if you want to write a proprietary application, you can't do that using the Qt interfaces because your application would have to be under the GPL license. The Qt library, they will sell you the ability to, they have a dual license structure where if you pay a licensing fee, then you can distribute a proprietary application that uses Qt, but you have to pay a fee. And the GNOME community has always felt that it is more important to make the libraries LGPL so that if you want to write a proprietary application and have it run on free operating systems, that you should have the ability to do that and not have to pay any fees. So I think that the GNOME environment actually is more friendly to business interests.
OK， 还有其他问题想要问 Brian 的吗？机会难得，可以直接跟 maintainer 对谈，请说。
Hi, hello. I have a question. Does GNU Shell has animation effects like competes or something else?
Well, it does have some animations. You notice when I go to the activities menu that there are animations happening there, for example. So yes, the desktop has animations. Does it have all of the animations that you'll find in Compiz? Oh, Lord, no, and thank goodness. The focus of the GNOME project has always been easy, simple to use, and Compiz is anything but that. If you've ever tried to go into the Compiz configuration dialog, you come out of it 10 minutes later not sure what you did, if you did anything. Right?
You mean there is no more cube, no more fire?
Yes, I mean there's no more cube and no more fire. Now, over time, if there's really a strong need or desire to have more animation, I'm sure that more animations might be possible in the future. One exciting thing about GNOME Shell is that it's all written in JavaScript, which is a language that is very easy to customize, and it's a language that's very easy to integrate, and plug in your own code into. So one thing that's neat about having a desktop environment in an interpreted language like JavaScript is that it should be a lot easier for people to customize and make it work the way you want to. It's not necessary to compile any code or to be a software guru in order to change things. JavaScript is a pretty low barrier to entry. A lot of people who do web design and development know JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, you can modify the way that the desktop appears. So if Cube is something that you really need or want, it shouldn't be too much work to integrate.
还有什么其他问题吗？
我这边其实是想补充一下刚才有人提的问题啊，他说 QT 因为 GPL 授权导致那其实是误解啊。其实当初 QT 最早不是 GPL 授权，它是 QPL 授权，因为QPL 并不被 FSF 认可为 Free Software License， 所以当初一些 distribution 的对 KDE 是否为 Free Software 认为是有疑义的，所以当初包括 Red Hat 之类的厂商才立GNOME 成为一个真正 Free Software 的一个 Desktop。但是这个争议后来在 QT 改为 GPL 授权之后，其实已经没有问题了，所以 QT 包括 QT 跟 KDE 在内，现在都是完全符合 Free Software 的 license。当然目前现在 QT 最新改为 LGPL， 这主要是为了商业应用上考量，因为很多厂商因为 QT 是 GPL 授权而不太敢使用 QT， 但是改为 LGPL 之后，这个疑虑也消失了。我是想补充这一点。
You mean the QT was not open license before, but currently QT was like released under the LGPL so that everybody can use it in the commercial environment.
Oh, well, that's great news. If last time I paid close attention to the QT licensing, it was still under the GPL license. So if they've changed it to LGPL, then I think that's great. That's a smart move on their part. And apologies for spreading misinformation, but the QT community has changed their license a few times, and we in the GNOME community feel that one of the main reasons why that the KDE and QT teams have changed their licenses because of pressure from the GNOME project, that because we are and have always been the first free desktop, we put the QT community in a position where they've over time needed to open up and make their code more and more free. And I think everyone agrees that it's great when free software communities can work to encourage other communities to adopt better free licensing. But it did take the KDE and QT community, about 10 years to change their licensing, I believe. So I think in terms of licensing, they've been a little late to the party.
OK， 请说。
Hello, I would like to ask problems about the third-party apps notifications. Is there any more integrated tightly into the GNOME 3 for the third-party applications to send a notification, and the system provides a more unified look and feel for it? Yeah.
The notification area in GNOME Shell is designed to be